into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Hey Travis, do you play the stock market? Is that a thing for you? Are you a savvy financial investor with your bonds and your stocks and your whatnots?
I kind of lost like $1 million in the stock market when I was 19 years old. So I've been hesitant.
That's a leading thing to open a conversation with, and we should probably talk a little bit about how that happened in a while. But basically, you're a cautious investor that doesn't like to play the stock market because you've been burned, right?
That is correct, yes.
Well, I would hazard a guess that a lot of people are perhaps getting burned at the moment because for a while this was the rhetoric.
It's hit record numbers, as you know.
Every day for the last long period of days, the stock market, meaning companies, have been hitting new highs.
The stock market has gained almost $3 trillion in value since the election on November 8th, a record. Last week, the stock market soared to record highs, highest ever, boosting the pensions and your retirement accounts and those of hardworking Americans. The stock market reached yet another all-time, in history, all-time high today, boosting the retirement savings, hopefully, of everybody in this room. Have you all been helped? I think so. The stock market is soaring to record levels, boosting pensions and retirement accounts for hardworking Americans. Their values are going up every single day. Look what's happening with our markets. People get it. Today, again, the stock market has reached another record all-time high.
And on and so on and so forth. So if you are hearing this and then seeing the numbers do what the numbers have been doing of late, you could not be blamed for being like, I gotta get in, otherwise I'm going to be left behind. And it's almost bred a certain type of hysteria among Americans. People that are investors, people that are not investors have felt like, I gotta find money from somewhere and I gotta put it into the stock market because this thing is taking off, man, taking off. Did you feel any inkling of doing that?
I'm definitely tempted. Are you doing it?
No. I mean, see, I operate the exact opposite way. When it starts to surge, I'm like, clearly I've missed it. You know, like I could have gotten in on the ground level. And here's the thing. I've never really been a stock market-y type of individual. Now, we should preface this discussion on finances by saying if you take any of the things that you hear on this show today as financial advice, that would be a terribly bad idea because we don't really know what the hell we are doing. I have some stuff that I kind of believe in, but that doesn't mean it's A, smart, or B, right for you. So let's just get that out of the way right now. But for me, you know what I did do when the stock market crashed? I mean, the stock market has been spiraling downward in what economists are calling the first major correction of Donald Trump's presidency at the moment. Now, I went and waited for the market to crash before I bought some stuff. I'm like, sweet, it's cheap again. And bear in mind, like the amount of money I'm talking about is so teeny tiny small. It's really more of an experiment for my own personal edification as opposed to anything that I actually hope will pay me anything. So like I have bought some stocks in the last couple days, but we're not talking. Yeah. I mean, really not very many, like a very, very small conservative amount of money that I wouldn't mind losing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is not, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the mortgage payment, but I got to get in. This is more like, here's a couple nights out on the town. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Yeah. See, I have a gambling problem. So like, I do.
Oh, do you really?
Once I get involved, like, oh my God, I just can't bring myself to stop. I'll go sit at the roulette table or whatever, and watch. And I'm like, within the first hour, I'm down like $1,000. And I'm like, that's my other issue is that, when it comes to gambling, I can't win. So,
well, that is technically a type of gambling problem. Your inability to win. I mean, but also you're playing roulette, which, by the way, is my game of choice when I go to gamble. But it's also in no way, shape, or form affected by any kind of logic, reasoning, or skill. Like, that's a game that you play strictly for the thrill of it.
I will sit there and I will literally stand there at the table before I ever get involved and just, say I bet black every single time. Let's see how I do.
A win is so unsatisfying if you play black or red, because if you hit on your number, you see this massive pile of chips in front of you. But if you play black or red, it's like, I had one chip, now I had two. Big freaking whoopity doo.
But it's also kind of safe in a way. No,
it's not.
I know it's not the way.
Again, let me just redirect you to my earlier comment about not taking any of this as financial advice. When Travis Golightly within the first segment of the show has been like, oh yeah, putting it all on red or black is safe, that should tip you the hell off that we do not know what we're talking about.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So the stock market has been spiraling downward over the last couple of days, and economists are calling this the first major correction of President Donald Trump's presidency. And look, I almost feel it's irresponsible to be talking about the stock market the way he has been and the way conservatives have been. And look, there's nothing wrong with thumping your chest and being like, things are going great. Who did that? I did that. But it creates a sort of false, literally a false economy, in that if you're like the vast majority of people I know, you hear about the stock market rising and hitting record highs and being like, I gotta get in. And that causes a certain type of hysteria, which almost immediately, and like we said before, we are not economists. Travis Golightly's advice was, if you put it all on red at the roulette table, you're safe. Or do you bet red or do you bet black? Which is a thing for you?
I'll stand there and watch, and I'll see which one looks like it's doing better, because we both know that there's absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why it's going red, black, or green. So I'll stand there and watch and play this little game in my head. If I put it all on red every single time for the next 15 minutes, how would I do? Red looks so good until I put money on it. And then it's black, it's green. See, maybe it does 8 greens in a row. I don't know.
I have the same type of flawed logic as well. But I understand. I know that it's flawed when I'm going in.
Yeah.
And that is if I see my numbers that I like to play, if they've come up recently, I go, oh, I should have got in on that. If it was 9 or 17, which I like to play, then I'm just miss my shot. But if I look and it hasn't come up, I go, oh, maybe it'll come up. Maybe I should get in on this particular table, because, if you've never played roulette, if you've never been to a casino before, they keep running tally at the roulette tables of which numbers have been hitting. So for that reason, if my numbers haven't come up, I start to think maybe my numbers are about to come up. I mean, the law of averages would dictate we're on our way there. And then if they have come up a bunch of times in a row, I go, oh, I missed it a bunch. Well, I mean, look at the freakish number of times 9 has come up. Seems like I need to play right now. Neither of these are good strategies as an investor nor as a gambler. But here's the thing. I don't have a gambling problem. I get a little bent out of shape, and I do enjoy playing roulette, but I'm also aware that it involves absolutely no skill whatsoever. It's completely a game of luck. And
my problem is I don't get upset. Even if I lose, I'm having the time of my life. That's why I have a gambling problem. I'll literally walk into the casino with my friends and look at them, and literally a quote out of my mouth, I'll look at them and be like, boys, statistically tonight, we can't lose. Which we both know the odds are completely against you.
You want to know how I got hooked on roulette? Why that's my game of choice?
I do want to know. I'm trying to think. Does it have something to do with Sinatra?
It's the experience I had while staying alive. First and foremost, when I go to the casino, I have a set amount of money that I'm going to lose. I might blow through that in the first 5 minutes. That might last me all weekend long. But when it's done, it is done, my friend. And that's it for me. And I've got no problem checking out and being like, okay, terrific. That's it for me. I mean, the cool thing about a lot of casinos is there's other stuff to do. So even if you're just there for the weekend, you go sit by the pool or whatever the hell it is you're up to. But I have a limit, and I don't go over that limit, and I've never had a hard time adhering to that particular rule. That is rule number one. I decide what I'm comfortable losing, and it stings if I lose it all at once, but really I'm just trying to make it last for as long as I'm there. I'm under no illusion of this idea that I'm actually going to win anything. But the thing that got me hooked on roulette was there was this one time where I had a really good run. I was at Harrah's in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where I used to go.
Because you lived in New York.
Yeah. So it's kind of what you do for, right? And by the way, ain't nothing going on in Atlantic City. So that's a gambler's town. Like the serious gamblers, they go to Atlantic City. They do not go to Vegas, because Vegas is sort of like a carnival. It's like an amusement park for adults. There's all this different stuff. Gamblers like to go to Atlantic City because that's all you're there to do, really. I mean, you could go out on the boardwalk, but you have to be adept at avoiding hypodermic needles. It's not a good scene in Atlantic City. That did not go well. There was actually, I didn't think of this, but there's been this guy that's on TV a lot, an orange colored dude that opened up a hotel and casino in Atlantic City and kind of sort of like overhyped it. And it wound up sort of, I don't know, contributing to the economic downfall of Atlantic City as a whole. You know, that whole Trump Taj Mahal thing didn't necessarily work out too freaking great. So bear in mind, that's the dude who's hyping us on how great things are going at the moment. The guy responsible for the failure that is Trump Taj Mahal. Whatever the case may be, I was at Harrah's in Atlantic City, and I was playing roulette, just having sort of an okay time, and I'm sitting across the table from a woman who, now I don't like to say that I subscribe to the idea of stereotypes, but everything about her gave me reason to believe that she was a lesbian. She was 100% a lesbian, and I know she was a lesbian because she started talking about her life, and she was winning like crazy. And as it turns out, she was a lesbian cop, and she was so excited because she was like, dude, I just hit again. I was like, I know, it's amazing. She's like, I'm going to buy so much sperm with this. I was like,
oh my God. What?
What?
Hang on. What?
This is why I like to last as long as possible at a roulette table, because I found I've had some of the most truly interesting human-on-human encounters of my life in these situations, because there's a weird thing when you're there with strangers, but you're all bonded by the fact that you're hoping to win or sad when you lose, and it's a very, very strange thing that bypasses common logical human sensibilities. But this woman who was a lesbian cop, she was like, yep, me and my wife are trying to have a baby. And this was pre gay marriage being legal, so it was just in theory. But every time she hit, she was like, do you know how much sperm this will buy? I'll be like, actually I don't, but I'm very interested in your story.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland.
All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So yeah, the way I got hooked on roulette was because I was in Atlantic City one weekend, and I managed to stay alive at a roulette table long enough not to walk home with anything actually in my pocket, but to have walked home with a very interesting, I suppose, anthropological experience, in that the woman across from me, who could not stop hitting, had a very specific use for all the money that she was winning. And every time she hit, she was like, yes, this is going to buy me so much sperm.
That is so weird.
And I was like, that's a bit of a leading statement. I'll bite. What's going on? And she was like, well, me and my girlfriend, or my wife, she was married, but it was before there was gay marriage was legalized. But she was like, me and my wife are trying to have a kid. And it's not so easy when you're a lesbian couple. And so, this will purchase a lot of the male reproductive material that we need for our family having purposes. I was like, this is the greatest story I've ever been a part of. And so, like, I was just thrilled. And the idea that when I lost, I had to walk away was so disheartening, but I managed to stay in it just as long as she did. She walked away with all kinds of cash. Like, if she was working some sort of a system, I would like to know what that is.
Jumped on board. I would have jumped on whatever she was betting. I'd be betting.
Oh, I did that. I followed her around the table only when, and I'll never forget, because she was like, you're bringing me bad luck. When I followed her around the table, she stopped hitting. And she was like, you're kind of bringing me bad luck. Would you mind not doing that? And I was like, you know what? If this brings you closer to that sweet sperm purchase, then far be it from me to interfere. So I stopped following her around the table, and then she started hitting again. And I was not going to mess with that, because that would have been a jerk thing to do. Like I said, there's no logic involved in any of this. But, when someone's on a roll like that and you play into their sense of what's working and what's not working, you kind of just go with it. I think that's what you do. But anyways, back to the stock market. This is a correction, and Donald Trump has been overhyping, and conservatives in general have been overhyping the fact that the stock market is going gangbusters. And that creates a certain type of pandemonium, where people have been like, I got to break into my 401k to get in on this, otherwise I'm going to be left behind. And look, it's a useful thing to apply to everything in life. I started this show by saying, bear in mind, none of this is real financial advice. But I think, generally speaking, when you are looking at the world as a whole, if something seems too good to be true, then it is. There will be people who get lucky. There will be people like 50 Cent.
Oh, God.
50 Cent, who decided years ago that he was going to, as a joke, let people pay for his album in Bitcoin, this cryptocurrency, forgot about it, and then realized he made $7 million off of it. And like,
it's just infuriating.
And there's going to be people that have those stories. And here's the thing. Chances are one of them will probably not be you. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen to you. But generally speaking, if something seems too good to be true, it is. And there will be a correction. And people that were riding high will hit the ground, and hit the ground hard. Pence has gone on the record saying the most important numbers to focus on are fundamentals, and the fundamentals of this economy continue to be very strong. Now, if there's a crash, there probably will be a correction. There was a massive surge, and then there was a crash, and you know what? Hopefully, things will middle out a little bit, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the president's focus is our long-term economic fundamentals, which remain exceptionally strong. And what does that mean? Does that mean that you need to panic and get the hell out now before you lose everything? Does that mean that you need to, find money and because the stock market crashed, now is the time to buy now? No, it means that you should seek the advice of a financial consultant and do things in a smart way. If you don't have the money to lose, it's like me walking up to the roulette table. If I go, I got $500 that I'm going to lose this weekend, and I might go through that $500 in the first 5 seconds, and I might go through that $500 not at all. I might walk away from money, but I'm expecting that this $500 is a $500 amount that I can live without. That's sort of the way to approach life in general financially, I think. You never want to get yourself in over your head because of pandemonium and hysteria. And I've seen so many people talking about it, whether it's been like, oh man, I missed the boat, I got to get in somehow, or oh man, now the market's crashed, I really got to buy. Everybody settle down, take a beat, and recognize that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Get some good advice and temper your actions with that. Travis Golightly, you lost $1 million in the stock market. How'd that happen?
It's one of those things that, in all fairness, did I actually lose a physical $1 million? No, not exactly. When I just gotten out of high school, And a buddy of mine got me a job with this .com. So I graduated in like 99. So it was like right about the .com boom. And I got a job as a network administrator with this .com and in Salt Lake City. And it was great. And like, because I got in on like the very front end of it, they gave me a whole bunch of stock options.
No kidding.
So I bought the stock and it was worth, I paid like $60 or something for all the options. And then when it went public, like a year and a half, almost 2 years later, it was going crazy. I mean, it was climbing and climbing, and it ended up at the highest it got was like $1 million in what I owned. And I was like, you got to be kidding. But it wasn't fully vested, so I couldn't sell it. And then something happened, and they were offering a buyout. It was a separation agreement where they would immediately vest part of the stock. And so, like, I had $1 million in stock, but I would only get like $250,000 because they were only going to vest a quarter. And so I was like, my buddy told me, he was like, dude, you got to take it. But he had a lot more stock than I had because he had a much more important role, and he was there before I was. He's the one who got me the job.
Yeah, instead of getting in for $60, he got in for $120, so he was a made man.
I was like, nah, dude. I said, I want my $1 million. I mean, I was just this greedy 19-year-old, you know? So I didn't take the separation agreement. And we went into a closed trading window, and it plummeted. And by the time I could sell again, I think I sold for like $120 total. I mean, it was terrible. It was just, what do you do, you know? It's
the fact that, like, the sad part is not that it went from $1 million to 120. It's the fact that you sold the 120, where you're like, I got to get out. I got to get some money back out of it. And you sold for 120.
I know. It was devastating, man. I remember watching it. I was just like, it was unbelievable, but I didn't deserve it, you know? It's okay.
Well, I mean, look, these are rare situations, like 50 Cent accepting Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Ironically, a guy called 50 Cent accepted Bitcoin. And it all sort of worked out for him. But now there's this whole big thing of like, should 50 Cent hold on to his Bitcoin or not? And who the hell knows what he did or what he's doing? I mean, like, first and foremost, during his height, right around the time you were a network administrator, he was making something like $30 million a year. And he went through that sort of like bankruptcy thing where people were like, you're broke. And then he was like taking pictures of himself on beds of money. And he was just like, I went through financial restructuring the way all large corporations have to at some point or another.
Oh, God.
And so he'll be just fine either way. But Travis Golightly's experience is a perfectly realistic representation of how these things can work. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true, and there's probably going to be an epic, and I do mean epic, downside. So anytime you see people getting rich, know that there's a Travis Golightly-esque story at the end of it. Sorry, Travis, to use you as here's what not to do. But bearing in mind that you started the show by saying, like, betting on red is safe.
Yeah, I know. There's a reason.
There's
a reason I'm in the situation I'm in.
Yeah. For me, there's one thing that I like. And look, this is as volatile as anything else, but it comes with some additional layers, and that is the real estate market.
Oh, yeah.
I like houses, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're like me, you're a bit, or apartments, or whatever the hell it is you're going to live in. Now, bear in mind, I am not a guy who's done, real estate development or anything crazy, but here's the thing about owning a home. When you own a home, that is possibly, most likely, going to be the largest purchase you're ever going to make in your life. Now, let's say for a second that you decide you want to invest and you get into gold, or you get into Exxon stock, or you get into Bitcoin. You know what you can't do to gold, Travis?
What's that?
You can't go in there and, I want to see my gold. Okay, here's your gold.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just going to lovingly polish it and really make it sparkle and affect the value of it. No, that has absolutely no impact on it whatsoever. As a bit of a control freak, I like real estate for a couple different reasons. One, because you can paint the gutters. You can clean the place up a little bit. You can maybe put new carpet in. You can make little improvements to your home that are going to affect the value of it positively. It's the only investment vehicle I can think of where you actually have some semblance of control over how this is going to go for you. And that's the thing that I really like about real estate. The other thing is, look, I am from London and New York City, two of the most notoriously expensive real estate markets on the face of the planet. I moved to Houston, Texas, one of the most affordable, livable cities on the face of the planet, back in the early 2000s. And after I'd been there a couple of years, something interesting happened. The market crashed. And I'm watching HGTV and seeing people making money off of flips, not necessarily aware of the fact that houses were way, way, way more expensive just a couple of years ago. So I was just like, these guys are, A, they're living in nice homes. B, they get the creative satisfaction of having done something, and then, they get to sell it for more. So I did that thing that I saw people doing on TV. You look for a foreclosed home, one without a whole lot of damage to it, and you try and fix it up a little bit and then sell it when it makes sense. The other thing that I like about that is the fact that you can live in it. If the market doesn't support you selling it right away, well, guess what? You can live in it. And if you don't want to live in it, you get to rent it out for a little while. And so to me, that's why I really kind of like real estate. The control freak in me likes real estate. Now, bear in mind, had I been living in London and New York City, there's no way a guy in his 20s could have bought a home. But right after the market crashed in... when was it? Like 2007, I suppose, was when there were all these foreclosed homes on the market in Houston. And right around the time the market crashed, I bought my first home for, I think it was around $150,000.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about Houston. You can actually get a really, really, really nice home for $150,000. I mean, it's crazy.
Now, a couple years earlier, that home, which, by the way, there was a hole in the bedroom wall through which you could see the backyard. Like, it wasn't necessarily in the best shape. I mean, I had a home inspector go over it and be like, what's the craziest thing that I'm going to have to do this place? And he was like, the craziest thing you're going to have to do is repair that hole in the wall. And I was like, how much is that going to cost me? And bear in mind, I went into all this stuff with my eyes as open as possible. Like, I had a contractor come and look at it and give me an estimate. And I found out really quickly that anytime a contractor gives you an estimate, double the amount of time and double the amount of money it's going to cost. And I'd heard that piece of advice going in. So the contractor gave me an estimate. I doubled it in my mind, and I thought that would still be okay. And so it all kind of worked out, and, the market corrected itself, and I was able to sell that place. And, that was the only way. And because I was just starting in radio, and there's no money in radio, and there's even less when you're just starting out. So that was really the only way I was kind of able to survive, was having done that. But it taught me something very, very important. It's about personal responsibility. And if you're a person that believes in taking responsibility for your actions and your life, real estate is probably going to be attractive to you in the same way that is attractive to me, because A, you can, with your own blood, sweat, and tears and hard work and ingenuity and all of the above, you can affect the value of your investment. And then B, you get to live in it. If the market doesn't support you flipping it the way, a lot of people want to, well, guess what? You can hold on to that thing until it makes sense. And you know what? All of this was predicated on me not getting over my head. I realized, okay, all right, the mortgage on a $150,000 home, that's actually a few $100 less a month than I'm paying in rent. That's not too much cash. This is what the taxes are going to be. And so I really kind of factored in all of these things that allowed me to be under what would ostensibly be my limit. And then it allowed me to, like I said, affect the value of my own investment with my hard work. And that's an appealing thing.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio 104.1.
more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
So there we have it. Our Dunderheads take on finances in the week where the market has crashed and crashed hard. I did get in though, Travis. I mean, really for almost no money whatsoever. For the cost of a couple nights out on the town, it was more for an experiment than anything else. You know what I started using? Just more out of curiosity than anything. Have you ever seen those Roundup apps?
Roundup? No, what is it?
There's a bunch of them out there. I think the one I use is called Acorns. And by the way, please, this is not necessarily smart investment strategy. I think the money that it costs you to take your money out almost negates any profit that I'm going to be making. But it's really just sort of like out of curiosity to see what it would take. And basically, every time I purchase something on my credit card for 98 cents, it takes 2 cents and puts it into the account. It rounds it up.
Oh, that's actually
to the
really
dollar.
smart. So are you actually, is it penny stocks? Is that what it is? Or is it not?
No, and it really is the Dunderheads approach to investing. You know, like it'll let you set tiers. Like, do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to be conservative? Or do you want to be somewhere in the middle? Like, and it will let you kind of pick the shape of your investment vehicle. Like, okay, if you want to be aggressive, you're going to go in on this, this, and this. If you're going to be conservative, you're going to go in on sort of like long-term stuff that's relatively safe.
Which one did you choose? And, did you choose conservative?
I mean, bear in mind that I think there's a whopping $500 in there, and I've had the app for about a year. But I mean, hey, look, I managed to squirrel away $500 based on, pocket change, and I thought that was kind of cool.
You're kind of dancing
with
around it. Do you know what? It's
no,
okay.
No, like,
I shouldn't have asked you.
I just want to look, there were often times when I was a kid growing up where I would see things on TV and I would hear things on the radio and go, they're on TV, they're on the radio. And the same thing happened with the internet. Well, that's on the internet. It must be true. It must be good advice. And I just want to talk about what I'm doing very carefully. And I'm literally just playing around. This is the equivalent of me walking up to the roulette table with my $500 right. And going, I got this much to, last me through the weekend. And then I'm not going to gamble for another 6 months. Understand that is how I'm approaching this. So I'm literally just messing around. So the stock market crashed. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, I had $500 in there and, look, I lost $11. Now, bear in mind, if I'd had like a lifetime portfolio in there, I don't know what the math is exactly on that, but that would have been fiscally devastating.
Of course.
But for me, it's not. But I went, the stock market crashed. Now is the time to buy. So I bought like $250 and then I put it into a more aggressive category, literally just to see how it went. Like, that's it. Like, in no way, shape, or form, am I expecting to get rich off a $250 investment through an app. I'm just kind of like seeing where the market goes, because honestly, like I've said earlier, I'm really a big fan of real estate. You get to live in it. You get to do things to your real estate that affects the value of it. As long as you don't get in over your head, you can hold on to it until a market corrects itself when a market crashes. And barring natural disaster type things, for me, that's the type of investment I feel the most secure in, because it's not only your investment, it's your home. And hopefully, you manage to do stuff to your home that make it a place where you like to live. So for me, that's it. This is literally me just like messing around and seeing where the market goes with this app. But, it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool to have that function where, hey, I've squirreled away $500 without even thinking about it over the last 6 months. That's kind of
awesome.
Neat based on pocket change. It's like, I do everything on a credit card now. Everything. Like, I got my first ATM card in years because I don't believe in cash. Like, I know there's like people that say that one of the signs of the apocalypse is a cashless society. Have you ever read that passage of the Old Testament?
Yeah.
It's funny because we had Metallica roll through town, and we did this thing with a Metallica pop-up store. I don't know if you saw one of those things, but it was really, really cool. Like, usually a member of Metallica comes out and hangs out, and then it's sort of like a Metallica museum with all this rare stuff from their personal collections of merch and gear. And then, kids come in and buy stuff. And the people that were running the Metallica pop-up store, they're like, the number of kids that have come in and tried to pay on their cell phone, like, we're not set up for Apple Pay. And I think, like, after the first one they did, they were immediately set up for Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or whatever the hell it is. But they're like, kids don't touch cash anymore. They don't physically touch it. It's, everything is digital. And it's so weird because that's one of the signs, like I said, of the Old Testament. The end of the world will be predicted by a couple different things, one of which is a cashless society. And I feel like we're moving closer to that. Now, fortunately, I'm not suspicious in that way, but it's strange. The less you touch cash, the more you think of money as an idea and not a physical thing. And the more you think of money as an idea and not a physical thing, the more you start to think things like, does it really, cosmically speaking, matter if I don't get up and go to work today? Like, I'm just really working for the idea of money. I haven't seen it, it's really, money's become an idea and less of a thing that you touch. It's a weird state of affairs.
Let me stress, I'm not cheap at all. Like, especially when it comes to like tipping and stuff like that. I joke around that I don't tip, like with my friends, but I am a very, very good tipper. Like, I am always very concerned to make sure, as much as I hate tipping, I make sure that I do a really good job of it because I know that, it's these people's salary.
Yeah, that's their livelihood.
But one thing that I found that's really interesting is if you tip in like $2 bills or like 50-cent pieces, people are so excited to see those that it like makes it like, it's like you tipped twice the amount you should have. Like, it's so funny to see people's reactions to these things.
People listening on KPRC know exactly what I'm talking about. People listening in other parts of the country probably never heard of this guy, but there's that guy, the C&D scrap metal guy in Houston, and their whole hook is you bring in your scrap metal, we're going to pay you in $2 bills. And people are enamored by it. People love that. It's a really interesting phenomenon. That's totally true. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big believer in paying for things on a credit card because that way I can see where every last penny goes at the end of the month. And understand, I don't use it like a credit card. I don't use it to pay for things that I can't afford. I just basically use it as a substitute for cash, and I pay it all off every single month. I am, I guess, in the true sense of the word, Travis, a fiscal conservative. And I honestly believe that is the way forward for all of us.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So Steve Wynn, the hotel guy, the Vegas hotel guy. I ate once at his buffet in Las Vegas, and I found it to be a scotch disappointing. I was expecting more culinary fireworks than I consumed. But Steve Wynn, who is also, besides being a hotel dude, he's also an art collector, and he is the financial chair, or was the financial chair of the GOP. Was that his title, Travis?
That was his title. It was.
Mm-hmm. That was his, right? Yeah. Operative word being the one that puts it in the past tense. Here's the thing. There's been all this sort of sexual misconduct that's come out in the press and, just come out over the last week or so. And now, as the plot freaking thickens, the Las Vegas Review-Journal admits that they killed a story that alleged Steve Wynn sexually harassed employees back in the late 90s.
Oh, wow.
And they went one step further than killing the story. It was one of those things that absolutely shocks you and makes you go, this is why, this is how people like this have gotten away with this sort of thing for so long. And hopefully we're entering a different era. We'll get to the full story on that a little later on. Right now, though, let's take a look at the events of today. What's going on in the news, Travis?
An online auction of Prince memorabilia starts on Thursday.
Yeah. One thing that will not be up for grabs is Prince's dignity, only because Justin Timberlake got all of that during the halftime show the other day. Ugh. Were you a fan? Did you watch the halftime show? What did you make of that?
I wasn't a fan. This is going to shock you, and it's probably something I shouldn't even say on the radio. I was never a big Prince fan. I understand he was talented. I get it. I just didn't really like his music. I like that one song, 7. That was it. And I don't know.
That's a great song.
Yeah. But when I saw that Justin Timberlake was going to be, how did they tease it? Covering or a tribute to Prince or something? I thought to myself, are you stupid? I thought matter...
I mean, here's the...
Come on.
If you genuinely believe that Prince was the greatest artist of all time, which I think Justin Timberlake did, I don't think Justin Timberlake meant anything. Like, there's people that are like, you're appropriating his music. This white boy's, halftime show is boring except for the part about Prince, and it's just another guy. And Prince even said back in the late 90s that this idea of people performing duets with dead folks, Natalie Cole did it with Nat King Cole, her dad. And he said that he thought it was quote unquote demonic. So he wasn't a big fan of this idea of a living person duetting with him once he'd kicked off this mortal coil.
So it's like the ultimate slap in the face.
Yeah, and maybe Justin Timberlake did his research on it, decided he didn't care. He just wanted to have a Prince moment because Prince meant everything to him, or maybe he wasn't aware of that. Either way, it was just one of those things where, and when I watched it, I was like, hey, Prince was amazing. And if you've ever been to Minneapolis, what Prince meant to that city is tremendous, huge, unbelievable, like such a source of pride, such a big part of that town, big part of that city. And it's understandable that you go to Minneapolis and you want to pay tribute to the music of Prince. That I totally get. The way in which it was done, where the idea that he was going to be performing with a Prince hologram was floated out there, that made people outraged. And then the idea that he used Prince's vocal tracks from the song upset folks as well, because Prince didn't want that happening. And for me, I was like, it's a really good idea if you're going to pay tribute to a recently deceased musical icon in his home city that you don't use a song "I Would Die for You." Like, I was like, what the God. Literally a catalog of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hits that mean so much to so many people, and that's the one you went with.
Wow.
To me, that was like, Justin Timberlake's reached that stage in his career where there's no one left around him who says no. Bad idea. Don't do that. No. They went, you're the greatest, Justin. You can do no wrong. Yeah, I think that I'm going to honor this guy with the song "I Would Die for You."
Wow.
Okay. No one was around to say like, hey, literally any other Prince song. Literally any other Prince song. And here's the thing. It's not like he had one hit to choose from. He had a catalog of songs that meant so much to so many people. And that's what incredibly poorly thought out. Go on. What else?
A Florida man was arrested for trying to kidnap Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, that's kind of a big story. Lana Del Rey is sort of a bit of a hero to the hipster set. She is a global superstar. One of those folks that if you know exactly who the hell she is. And if you don't, it's sort of not in your purview, but she is a giant international star. So this is kind of like a big and interesting deal. Florida man arrested for trying to kidnap Lana Del Rey. Not much is known about this guy, although considering that he wanted to spend time with Lana Del Rey, safe to assume that he's completely deaf. I find her to be significantly more style over substance. Have you heard her music?
I had a friend who was really into her, worshipped this lady, and
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's worship. It's not fandom. It's worship. And I don't fully understand. And I don't know what her real name is. It's not Lana Del Rey. Lana Del Rey is a character that she created. She was just sort of trying to do stuff as her own person, and no one was buying. So she created.
Her name's Elizabeth Grant.
Yeah. Elizabeth Grant created the Lana Del Rey persona, and it's a persona that is so captivating to people that when people like Lana Del Rey, fan doesn't even come close to it. But so people around the world
this chick
would have lost their minds.
Loved her. Yeah. And she would always talk about her, and she was like, "Oh my God, do you love her?" And I mean, I'm like, no, I don't think I do. I'm not really familiar. So in the beginning, I tried to dance around it because I'm like, I don't know who she is really, but I know the people. I knew this chick worshipped her, and she was like, "Oh my God, do you know this song and this song?" I was like, "No." She's like, "I'm begging you, you have to go to YouTube and just listen to this song." And I listened to it, and I was like, "Yeah, did nothing for me." There's
some time there's some sort of fan music-based obsession that I understand. Like 21 Pilots, totally get it. Like the program director of WTKS in Orlando that carries this show, Jack, said that he went to see 21 Pilots with his kids, and he was like, it was the best show I've ever seen.
Really?
Next to Bruce Springsteen.
Oh my God.
It was just, yeah. No, I mean, again, it's that level of involvement and engagement that they have with people. That when you go see 21 Pilots, it's not just seeing a band that are great at what they're doing. And that guy is a fantastic front man. They know how to put on a show, but their music connects with their listeners in a way where it's people from Houston might sort of relate to it. Just, you ever seen Blue October play live, Travis? I mean, we've had them at a bazillion BuzzFests.
Oh yeah. And they have such a cult following. I mean, I remember, and I think you were even at the meeting. I remember before they even got huge, they came into the Buzz Studios and, like, you know, off the air and just wanted to introduce themselves. And, you know, the record rep was there or something. He's like, these guys are, you know, they're about to blow up. And they were just the nicest people in the world. They really were. They were just incredible.
Well, here's the thing about, you know, bands like that, bands like 21 Pilots, bands like Blue October, bands of that nature. When you go see them, it's incredible for a couple of different reasons. One, you know, oftentimes they put on an amazing show, and it's a kick-ass band kicking ass and taking names on stage. But the other thing is, it's the audience involvement. Like, you pick up on the connection between these 15,000 people and the music that's being played, and it becomes more than a band, more than an audience. It's this sort of like incredible back and forth of energy. And I sound very out there talking about this, but
no,
it
not
really
really.
is. It's like this X factor where it becomes so much more than just a musician singing and playing. And that's sort of what Lana Del Rey has. Although with Lana Del Rey, I don't understand it. I remember watching her on TV once and I was like, all right, what's all the fuss about it? And I was like, sort of an okay song. You know, not the greatest singer in the world, but there's something about the persona that, you know, this woman, Elizabeth, created with Lana Del Rey that has sucked people into where they are obsessed. So if she'd gotten kidnapped, oh my gosh, people around the world would have lost their minds. And based on her fans' reaction to her, it doesn't surprise me that there's one wackadoo fan out there that would give anything to be closer to her, because that's the sort of pandemonium she inspires. What else?
Axl Rose turns 56 today.
Although parts of his face, only 25. You know, he's still doing that thing where he's gonna, the rumor is when Brian Johnson from AC/DC started having problems with his hearing and had to bail off the tour, they got Axl Rose to be the singer for the rest of the AC/DC tour. And that was kind of fun. It was sort of like, hey, it's a chance to see Guns N' Roses guy and AC/DC dudes play together. That's sort of a one-off. That's okay. But the idea that this moving forward could be AC/DC was sacrilegious to me. Looks like that's going to be AC/DC moving forward. No. The rumor is Axl Rose is going to record an AC/DC album with AC/DC.
Really?
Yeah, and that to me is not AC/DC. Don't call it AC/DC. It's just, you know, call it Axl and, you know, call it Axl and Angus, you know, but it's not, that's not cool. But you know what? AC/DC have been around for as long as they've been around, and they've earned the right to do this sort of thing. And I think people still go to the shows. They might even like the album, but I don't think anyone's going to listen to it and go, oh, it's an AC/DC record.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Hey, we should probably talk about Steve Wynn, right?
Yes.
So it's the Las Vegas Review-Journal admits that they killed a story that alleged Steve Wynn sexually harassed employees back in 1998. And it's one thing to kill a story. The extra step that they took to make sure that the story would never see the light of day was they ordered the reporter to delete that story from the newspaper's computer system. Did you see this?
No, I didn't. But wow, that's a little bit, just like you said, that's a little bit more than just killing a story.
Suppression of evidence or something like that. The newspaper subjected two women to lie detector tests in the story who alleged a culture of harassment at the Wynn-owned Mirage Hotel. A Mirage cocktail server alleged supervisors did not protect women from gamblers who harassed them. She said that waitresses were sent to sexually accommodate high rollers. Oh, that's an interesting phrase. Sort of reminds me of something that rhymes with the word schmostitute. She said that... She said that cocktail servers, waitresses were sent to sexually accommodate high rollers at the resort's luxury villas throughout the 90s. Another server, upon bragging about her first grandchild in the early 90s, reportedly was pressured into having sex with Wynn, who said he wanted to experience sex with a grandmother.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Two of the cocktail servers spoke to reporter Carrie Greer in 1998. Greer said she remembers then publisher Sherman Frederick saying that women should undergo lie detector tests. After the polygraph tests came back, Greer, who is now the Review Journal's Metro editor, said she was ordered to delete the story she had written because they'd passed and would have been a huge scandal. But she saved a printout of this story back in the 90s when everything wasn't just uploaded to a cloud. The court records from the case, the polygraph results, and the $600 bill for the polygraph examinations. The decision to kill the story was made after meetings with Wynn's attorneys. Greer said she does not recall who exactly ordered the story to be killed and deleted. Yes, she does. That was a huge moment of her life. That's a lie on top of a lie. What the hell, man? What the hell? The paper's attorney said that the 1998 story was killed for liability reasons. Make of that what you will.
Wow. That's really awkward.
So,
that's like,
yeah,
that is really, really awkward. Talk about killing it for liability reasons. There's a new liability that just opened up right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole thing. The truth will set you free. And when at all possible, you should default to the truth because it might get you in trouble in the short term, but it will serve you in the long run. The truth, my friend, will set you free always.